Happy New Year to you. As this new year begins, may your days be filled with peace, your nights with calm, and your heart with quiet strength. May this year bring you new hope, simple happiness, and the courage to keep moving forward. One gentle step at a time. Leave behind what tired you. Carry forward what made you stronger. Here's to new beginnings, soft moments, and dreams that grow slowly but surely. Happy New Year. May this year be kind to you.
Morning in an 1800s small town. In the early years of the 19th century, morning arrived without announcement. No bell rang. No whistle sounded. No clock demanded attention. The day simply began. The sun rose slowly beyond the fields and forests that surrounded the small American town. Its light reached the town carefully, touching rooftops, fences, and dirt roads with patience rather than force. Wooden houses stood quietly, unchanged from the night before. They had witnessed countless mornings like this one. They remembered cold winters and warm summers, but this morning was gentle. The air was still. Nothing moved quickly. Dirt roads lay empty, holding the memory of yesterday's footsteps and wagon wheels. No dust rose into the air. There was no wind strong enough to disturb the calm. Birds were awake before people. They shifted among tree branches and rooftops, producing soft calls that blended into the background rather than breaking the silence. Silence was not a problem here. It was the normal state of things. Inside one home, a man lay awake, staring softly toward the ceiling. Sunlight had not yet fully entered the room. Shadows rested calmly along the wooden walls. He did not think about what time it was. He did not calculate how much needed to be done. He simply rested. The bed beneath him creaked faintly as he turned. The sound was familiar. Nothing new. Wooden homes spoke softly in the morning as they warmed with the rising sun. Quiet pops and gentle shifts were part of daily life. In another home, a woman stood near the fireplace. The fire had nearly faded during the night, leaving behind warm ash and faint embers. With calm movements, she added a few small pieces of wood. Not too much. There was no reason to hurry. A soft crackling sound filled the room. It was steady, predictable. This sound meant safety. Morning tasks began in silence. Water was carried slowly. Bread was set aside. A kettle rested over gentle heat. Nothing was rushed. In the 1800s, people did not try to save time. Time was not something they feared losing. It belonged to the day. Outside, a fence stretched quietly beside the road. Morning light cast long shadows across the ground, creating simple patterns that shifted as the sun climbed higher. A man stepped outside his home and stood still. He did not immediately begin working. Instead, he breathed. The cool air filled his lungs slowly. It carried the smell of earth, wood, and distant smoke. He listened. Nothing demanded his attention. This pause was not laziness. It was morning. Further along the road, Another house showed signs of life. A window opened slightly. Fresh air entered the room. Curtains moved just enough to signal that someone was awake. No voices followed. Conversation could wait. In this small town, people understood that mornings were not meant to be noisy. They were meant to ease the body into the day. A horse stood quietly in a stable. Its breath was slow and steady. Leather harnesses hung neatly along the wall, unmoving. The animal did not grow restless. It knew there was no urgency. Later, work would come. But not now. The blacksmith's shop stood closed. Its heavy wooden doors remained shut. Inside, tools rested exactly where they had been placed the evening before. There was no pressure to open early. Fire and sound would eventually return to that space. But the morning allowed it to remain quiet. Children still slept. Their dreams were uninterrupted by alarms or schedules. School, when it happened, began later. Learning did not demand speed. Adults moved softly so as not to wake them. Respect for rest was common. The town did not belong to productivity yet. It belonged to calm. A distant rooster announced the morning, though not sharply. Its call was spaced, almost gentle. No one reacted immediately. The sound was part of the background. In the distance, a wagon began its slow approach toward town. Wooden wheels turned steadily, speaking softly to the dirt road. The sound did not travel far. It blended into the morning air. Nothing startled. A woman swept her wooden floor with careful strokes. The broom moved slowly, rhythmically. She did not measure progress by speed, only by completion. Outside, sunlight spread evenly across rooftops. The town revealed itself gradually. Shops stood quiet. Signs hung still, without movement. Business would begin when enough people were awake to notice. For now, the town existed for itself. People exchanged greetings when they passed each other. One word. Sometimes only a nod. No one felt ignored. Long conversations could happen later. A man leaned briefly against a fence, watching nothing in particular. The world did not require his analysis. Thoughts slowed naturally. This was not meditation. It was life. The well near the center of town reflected the brightening sky. A bucket rested nearby, untouched. Water would be drawn shortly. There was no need to rush. Morning chores appeared one by one, like gentle suggestions rather than demands. Milk was collected. Bread was broken. Doors opened wider. But the pace remained unchanged. The town woke the way it always had. Slowly, without effort. Each movement seemed to respect the quiet that surrounded it. As the sun climbed higher, warmth spread evenly. Not hot, not sharp, comfortable. Shadows shortened, but they did not disappear. The town felt balanced. Nothing important was missing. Nothing extra was present. In the 1800s, the morning did not ask for improvement. It only asked to be experienced. Time passed without measurement. Minutes did not matter. Only light, and breath, and stillness. The first hour of the day did not announce itself as complete. It simply faded into the next, and the town continued gently, ready to become busy later, but unwilling to hurry now.
This is really to much point 1800s small town ultra. As the morning slowly settled into the day, work began, not suddenly, not loudly, but naturally. In an 1800s small town, daily work did not interrupt life. It flowed from it. People did not rush from place to place. They stepped into their tasks the same way they stepped into the morning. Carefully, quietly, without tension. The blacksmith opened his wooden doors at last, not because a clock told him to, but because the light felt right. Inside the shop, the air was still cool. Tools rested where they had been left the night before. Metal was cold to the touch. The fire would come later. First, there was preparation, slow movements, familiar motions repeated every day. In the 1800s, work was not about speed. It was about steadiness. A farmer walked toward his fields without hurry. His boots pressed softly into the earth. Each step felt the ground beneath it. There was no machine waiting, no engine humming, only land and time. Animals were tended calmly. Cows were milked by hand with steady rhythm. No sudden movements. The animals were used to this pace. They trusted it. Milk filled the pail slowly. There was no rush to finish. Nearby, another farmer repaired a fence. He replaced one wooden post at a time, each movement careful. If a piece did not fit, he did not force it. He adjusted, or waited. Waiting was part of work. In town, the general store opened its doors. Wood creaked softly as it moved. Inside, shelves held simple goods: flour, sugar, cloth, tools. Nothing flashy, nothing urgent. Customers entered quietly. They spoke in low voices. No one pushed forward. No one demanded faster service. Everyone knew they would be helped in time. The shopkeeper moved slowly behind the counter. He had opened this store many times before. There was no surprise left in it. Each task followed the last without stress. In homes, women tended to daily chores. Laundry was washed by hand. Water carried from wells. Each action required effort, but not hurry. Work filled the hands, not the mind. The sound of cloth moving through water was steady, repetitive, almost calming. Nearby, a woman stitched fabric near a window. Sunlight fell gently across her hands. Needle in, needle out. The rhythm never changed. Children watched quietly or helped when asked. They learned work not through instruction, but through observation. No one shouted. In an 1800s town, shouting was rare. School, if open that day, began simply. A bell rang once. Not loudly, just enough. Children entered the small schoolhouse and sat at wooden desks. Books were simple. Lessons were slow. There was no pressure to finish quickly. Learning, like work, took time. Outside, wagons arrived and left at an unhurried pace. Wooden wheels turned slowly. Horses moved calmly. No traffic formed. No noise built up. Even movement respected quiet. Back at the blacksmith shop, the fire finally came to life. A soft glow, then warmth. Metal heated slowly. Hammer strikes were measured, not aggressive. Each sound echoed briefly, then faded. The blacksmith did not rush his work. He knew haste ruined good metal. Patience shaped everything in this world. Across town, a carpenter measured wood carefully. Twice, sometimes 3 times. Cutting happened only when he was sure. Mistakes were costly, so time was taken. No one questioned this pace. Everyone understood it. Work filled the middle hours of the day gently, not as a burden, but as a pattern. People paused often, to rest, to breathe, to look around. No one felt guilty for stopping. In the 1800s, work and rest lived side by side. As the sun climbed higher, the town continued its steady rhythm. Not fast, not slow, just calm. The sun continued its steady journey across the sky. No one noticed the exact moment it reached higher overhead. They felt it instead, as gentle warmth on skin and shoulders. Work continued without urgency. In the fields beyond the town, farmers moved slowly between rows of crops. Hands brushed against leaves. Soil was turned carefully, one section at a time. There were no machines to hurry the process, only human hands. And patience. Sweat appeared, but it was not stressful. It was expected, part of the day. The sound of tools meeting earth was soft and steady, a rhythm that blended into the quiet air. Back in town, the general store saw a few more visitors. They entered one by one, never all at once. People waited their turn without watching each other. Waiting felt normal. A sack of flour was lifted. A piece of cloth was measured. Coins exchanged hands slowly. No one checked the time. The shopkeeper wrapped purchases carefully. Paper folded. String tied. Nothing was rushed. Nearby, a man repaired his boots on a wooden bench. He worked slowly, pressing leather into place. Each stitch careful. If something slipped, he simply tried again. No frustration appeared. Across the street, a woman tended a small garden beside her home. She removed weeds gently, placing them aside. She paused often, not to rest from exhaustion, but to enjoy the quiet. Birds passed overhead. Clouds drifted slowly. The world felt wide and unhurried. At the blacksmith shop, metal cooled between strikes. The blacksmith waited before hammering again. He listened to the sound it made. He knew when to continue. Each movement came from experience, not pressure. Horses were led in calmly. Shoes were checked, adjusted, replaced if needed. The animals stood patiently. It felt no stress. Work happened at a pace both humans and animals could accept. In homes, midday meals were prepared simply. No elaborate dishes. No strong smells. Food was meant to nourish, not impress. Bread was cut. Vegetables were cooked slowly. Water poured. Families ate quietly. Sometimes together. Nothing easy. Daily work and simple jobs. Sometimes apart. Conversation happened softly. Often not at all. There was comfort in eating without distraction. After meals, work resumed naturally. A man returned to his woodworking project. A woman folded laundry and set it aside. Children carried small items, feeling useful. No one pushed them. They helped because they wanted to. Learning happened through doing. School ended early. Children returned home quietly. Their steps were light, their voices low. They had learned to respect the calm around them. A wagon rolled through the town, delivering goods. It moved slowly enough that no dust cloud rose. The driver greeted people with a nod. No one hurried to unload. Everything would be done in time. As afternoon approached, work did not intensify. It remained steady. The sun warmed wooden buildings. Walls expanded slightly with the heat. Soft creaks echoed now and then. These sounds were familiar, reassuring. Nothing meant danger. People paused more often as the day continued. They wiped hands on cloth. They leaned against fences. Rest was woven into work. In an 1800s town, exhaustion was avoided through balance, not speed. The blacksmith extinguished his fire briefly, then relit it. He controlled the heat, as he controlled his pace. Rushing metal ruined it. Rushing life did the same. Across the fields, shadows slowly changed direction. No one tracked their movement closely. Time was passing, but it felt gentle. As hour 2 continued, work remained constant and calm. Nothing dramatic occurred. Nothing unexpected. Each task completed made space for the next. And the town continued its day, not with effort, but with quiet intention. As the afternoon slowly settled in, the pace of work did not change. It remained gentle. The sun no longer felt new. It felt familiar, like a companion that stayed quietly overhead. People adjusted their positions slightly. Hats were tilted, sleeves rolled down or up. Small changes, nothing dramatic. In the fields, a farmer paused and leaned on his tool, not because he was tired, but because there was no need to continue without pause. He looked across the land he worked every day. It looked the same as it had yesterday, and the day before that. There was comfort in its sameness. Nearby, another worker repaired a wooden gate. He checked each hinge slowly, one by one. If something creaked, he fixed it carefully. If it held firm, he moved on. There was no checklist, no deadline, only the knowledge of what needed to be done. In town, the general store remained open, not busy, not empty. People entered occasionally, one at a time. A conversation began. It ended naturally. No one rushed away. The shopkeeper wiped the counter slowly, then stood quietly, waiting. Waiting was not wasted time. It was simply time. Across the street, a tailor worked inside a small room. Sunlight entered through a narrow window. Fabric lay across the table. Scissors rested nearby. The tailor measured carefully, marked lightly, cut only when certain. Mistakes were corrected patiently. Hands moved with memory more than thought. In an 1800s town, skill lived in the body, not in schedules. Children wandered nearby, carrying small tasks. A bucket of water, a note, a bundle of cloth. They moved slowly, knowing they would arrive soon enough. No one hurried them along. Learning patience started early. At the blacksmith shop, work slowed slightly as the afternoon warmed. The fire was fed gently. Metal rested longer between strikes. Each hammer sound echoed less sharply. The rhythm softened. Horses rested in the shade. Harnesses were loosened. Animals were cared for without shouting, without force. Trust replaced urgency. In homes, unfinished chores waited without pressure. Laundry sat folded partway. Dishes rested clean and ready. Nothing demanded immediate attention. People understood the order of the day naturally. Outside, the sound of footsteps came and went, never many at once. The town did not crowd itself. A man sat briefly on his porch, drinking water slowly. He did not check how much time had passed. His body told him when to stand again. This kind of listening was common. The air grew warmer, but not heavy. A breeze moved softly between buildings. Leaves shifted gently. No sound stood out. As the afternoon continued, the town's work quietly reached a steady midpoint. Not finished, not rushed, balanced. People continued doing what they had always done, repeating motions learned years before. Repetition did not feel boring. It felt stable. A carpenter smoothed a piece of wood slowly. Back and forth, back and forth. The sound was steady. He stopped occasionally, checking with his hands rather than eyes. In those moments, time seemed almost suspended. Nothing pushed forward. Nothing pulled back. Hour two stretched comfortably. It did not feel long. It did not feel short. It simply existed, and the town moved within it calmly. Crescent moon. Morning returned quietly to the small town. Not suddenly, not loudly. Light entered the streets slowly, as it always had. The town had slept. Now it gently woke. In the 1800s, streets were not rushed places. They were shared spaces, paths where life moved at its own pace. Wooden buildings lined the road, simple storefronts, plain signs, paint faded by years of sun and rain. Nothing glittered, nothing tried to stand out. A shopkeeper unlocked a wooden door. The key turned slowly. The hinge made a familiar sound. This sound had been heard many times before. Inside, shelves waited patiently. Goods rested where they belonged. Nothing had changed overnight. The shopkeeper stepped inside and set his hat down, always in the same place. Routine guided everything. Outside, the street remained calm. A few footsteps echoed softly on packed earth. No engines, no horns, only boots meeting ground. Someone passed by with a basket. Another carried bundled cloth. People greeted each other with nods. Short words, sometimes only eye contact. There was no need to explain anything. In the 1800s, towns remembered themselves. A bakery opened its shutters. The scent of fresh bread drifted gently into the street. It moved slowly. It did not travel far. Nearby, a general store prepared for the day. Jars were straightened, counters wiped. No hurry. Customers would arrive when they arrived. A bell above a door rang softly as someone entered. Once, then silence again. Inside the shop, voices remained low. Prices were known. Trust existed. Purchases were simple. No bargaining drama. No long discussion. Items were wrapped carefully. Hands exchanged goods and pay calmly. Outside, children walked along the street. Not running. Not shouting. They watched everything. Wagons moved slowly, wheels creaking gently. Horses stepped carefully. Nothing rushed them. Time felt wide here. The street held many smells. Wood, leather, grain, earth. None of them are sharp. none overwhelming. A blacksmith shop stood further down. Inside, work waited. Not yet loud, just waiting. Tools rested where they had been left the night before. Soon, the rhythm of hammering would begin. But even that sound would be steady, predictable. A woman stepped out of a fabric shop holding folded clothes. She paused outside, adjusting the bundle. The sun has risen a little higher now. Light touched rooftops, then windows, then the road. The town accepted it quietly. No announcement marked the start of business hours. People simply knew. A man swept the front of his shop. Slow strokes. Dust lifted gently, then settled again. Cleanliness was simple, functional. Across the street, a door opened and closed again. Someone else had begun their day. This was how towns lived. One small action at a time. Hour 4 began here. In the ordinary movements of shops opening, streets filling slowly, and people existing together without rushing. Nothing dramatic happened. And because of that, everything felt calm. As the morning settled more firmly into place, the street grew gently active. Not busy, just alive. More shop doors opened slowly, wood against wood, a soft creak. Each sound blended into the morning air. People moved along the road with purpose, but not urgency. They knew where they were going. There was no need to hurry. A man adjusted a crate outside his shop, stacking items neatly. One, then another. Order mattered, but only enough. Across the way, a woman paused to speak with a neighbor. A few words were exchanged, mostly nods. Connection was quiet here. The street accepted everyone without judgment. A delivery wagon arrived slowly, wheels turning steadily, horse breathing calmly. The driver stepped down without strain. He stretched briefly, then continued his work. Crates were unloaded one at a time. No rush to finish. Inside the shops, shelves are filled with daily necessities. Nothing decorative, nothing excessive. Everything had a use. Cloth, tools, dry goods, paper. Hands examined items carefully, feeling texture, weight. Decisions were simple. Outside, children passed through the street again, now carrying small tasks. Messages, baskets. They walked carefully, watching wagons, listening for familiar voices. They belonged here. A bell rang softly somewhere, then stopped. No repeated sounds. The town understood moderation. Mid-morning light warmed the street slightly. Shadows shifted slowly across doors and windows. No one chased the shade. They noticed it passively. A man sat on a wooden bench outside a shop, resting briefly, watching the road. Observation was part of life. Nothing felt wasted. At the edge of town, fields rested quietly. Their presence was felt even from the street. The town did not separate itself from the land. Movement continued, measured, predictable. Someone entered a shop. Someone left another. Each action is small, but together they form the town's rhythm. A woman carried a basket from one shop to the next. Not heavy, just enough. She paused once, adjusting the handle in her hand, then continued. The sound of gentle conversation drifted briefly, then faded. No laughter echoed loudly. Smiles were kept. In the distance, a hammer struck metal once. Then again, not fast, not slow, Consistent. This sound would continue for hours, and no one minded. The street held it. As the morning moved toward midday, nothing shifted sharply. The pace remained. This was the town at work. Steady, calm, unremarkable. And because nothing stood out, everything felt balanced. The street remained calm. It did not change suddenly. It did not demand attention. People continued to move through it at the same steady pace. A door opened. A door closed. The sound repeated in gentle patterns. Footsteps passed, then passed again. Each step is familiar to the ground beneath it. The packed earth held their weight easily. A shopkeeper stood behind a counter, waiting. Waiting did not feel like wasting time. It was part of the job. A customer arrived slowly, browsed quietly, chose carefully. Words exchanged were few. Enough. Outside, sunlight drifted across the street. It did not rush ahead. Shadows stretched and shortened. A wagon moved through town again. Same path, same pace. The horse stopped, then moved. Nothing startled it. Children returned, walking the same way they had earlier, now with empty hands. Their task completed, they noticed small things. Cracks in wood, marks on doors, stones in the road. The town revealed itself slowly. A man swept his steps again. Dust rose slightly, then settled. He did not mind repeating the task. Repetition brought calm. A bell rang once more, just once, then quietly returned. Inside shops, shelves stayed full but undisturbed. Items waited. Hands rested on counters. Fingers tapped softly. There was time. People looked through windows, out onto the street, and back again. Watching was part of doing nothing. A woman adjusted a sign outside her shop, straightened it. It moved slightly in the breeze. The breeze passed gently through town, carrying no urgency. Midday approached without announcement. People felt it rather than saw it. Hunger arrived slowly. Some stepped into bakeries again. Others paused to sit. No one rushed to leave. The town allowed pauses. Shops remained open. Streets remained open. Nothing closed suddenly. The sound of metal tapping continued in the distance. Steady, reliable. A man leaned against a post, resting briefly. His eyes followed movement down the road. Nothing unexpected appeared. The town repeated itself softly. Each hour resembled the one before it, and the one after. That sameness was comforting. The air carried quiet conversation again, then lost it. Quiet returned. Hooves stepped. Wheels rolled. The road accepted them. Every action seemed to fit. The town did not grow louder. It did not grow faster. It remained. Hour for stretched gently, filled with ordinary movement, ordinary sounds, ordinary calm, and it was enough. Slow rural life, deep sleep history. Beyond the town, the land opened quietly. Fields stretched wide and calm, unchanging, patient. In the 1800s, farms were not separate from life. They were life. The earth rested beneath open sky, unchanged by clocks or schedules. Morning light lay gently across rows of soil. It warmed slowly. It did not rush. Farmers moved with familiarity through the fields. They did not hurry. Each step pressed softly into the ground. The earth accepted it. Tools rested in hands worn smooth by years of use. Nothing new, Nothing shining, only what worked. A man paused at the edge of a field. He looked across it without counting rows. He already knew the land. The wind passed quietly over crops. Leaves moved together, then stilled. Nature spoke softly here. The sound of birds filled the space between moments. Not loud, not demanding, just present. Fences marked boundaries, but they did not divide sharply. They blended into the land. A horse stood calmly near a post, breathing slow, unconcerned. It waited without impatience. Work in the fields followed the same rhythm every day. Planting, tending, waiting. Waiting was important. Seeds rested beneath soil for weeks. No one watched them constantly. Trust existed. A woman walked slowly along a garden row. She adjusted one plant gently, then moved on. There was no need to fix everything at once. The field stretched quietly in every direction. Sky above, earth below. Time moved differently here. The sun climbed gradually, warming the air just enough. Shadows shortened without notice. A wagon stood near a barn, wood weathered, wheels solid. Barn doors stood open, dark inside, cool. The smell of hay drifted out softly. Animals moved slowly within enclosures. Cows shifted weight. Chickens scratched gently. No urgency. Everything followed natural pace. A farmer leaned against a fence briefly. Rest was part of work. He watched clouds pass slowly overhead. They did not form shapes worth naming. They simply moved. In the 1800s countryside, nature was not scenery. It was companionship. Fields stretched beyond sight, quietly repeating themselves. No sound dominated. No movement startled. Hour 5 began like this, with wide land, soft wind, and steady, uncomplicated life. The sun climbed higher, but the fields remained calm. A man walked slowly between rows of crops. Hands brushed gently against leaves. Each plant met his touch without rushing. Tools were carried carefully, placed down softly, picked up again. No hurry, no urgency. A horse in the distance shifted its weight. It breathed evenly. No sound startled the land. Birds flew across the sky in small groups. Their wings beat steadily, then glided, repeating the pattern naturally. The wind moved across the fields. Grass bent and swayed, then rested again. No sudden gusts. A woman gathered vegetables. She placed each into a basket slowly. One, then another, then another. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. Nearby, a barn stood quietly. Doors opened with a soft creak. Inside, the hay smelled sweet. Animals moved gently, without stress. Cows chewed calmly. Chickens scratched the dirt quietly. Pigs rested under shade. The farm repeated itself, day after day, season after season, and nothing about it felt hurried. A wagon rolled slowly down a dirt path. Wheels pressed into the earth evenly. Horses moved without strain. The driver leaned slightly, adjusting the reins. He did not hurry. He did not speak. The wagon moved past a fence, past fields of green and brown, past a tree that swayed gently in the breeze. The sound of tools meeting earth echoed softly. Shovels, hoes, hands patting soil. Everything had rhythm. Everything repeated naturally. The man paused again. looked across his land, breathing slow, deep, even. A cloud passed overhead. Shadow touched the field, then moved on. Time did not feel like it mattered here. Lunch was simple and quiet. Bread, cheese, water. No noise, no rush. A child helped by carrying water, step by step, careful, observing the land, the animals, the tools. The routine repeated. Work, pause, move, observe, repeat, and the fields responded. Plants grew slowly. Animals rested calmly. The farm existed without pressure. Even the wind followed the pattern. Soft gusts, then still. Repeated again. Hour 5 continued, filled with ordinary, steady actions. Ordinary, steady sounds. And ordinary, steady life. The land, the sky, the animals, and the people all moved in harmony. No rush, no noise. Nothing demanded attention, and that harmony stretched endlessly. The sun hovered steadily overhead. Its warmth touched the fields evenly. Nothing was abrupt. Nothing demanded notice. Farmers continued their steady rhythm, hands brushing against leaves. Tools pressed gently into soil. Step by step, movement after movement. Cows shifted weight slowly, chewing, occasionally lifting a head to glance around, then back to grazing. Chickens scratched in the dirt, repeating the same movements. Pecking, walking, pecking again. Children walked along narrow paths between rows of crops, carrying small baskets, collecting vegetables, pausing occasionally, observing quietly. The wind carried soft rustling through leaves. Grass bent slightly, then settled. Again and again. No sound became urgent. No movement rushed the others. Inside a barn, pace shifted slightly. Animals rested calmly. Occasionally a horse shifted weight. Occasionally a cow lowered its head. Each motion repeats naturally. A wagon rolled slowly along a dirt path. The wheels pressed into earth softly. The driver shifted slightly, pulled reins once. The horses moved on, step by step, unhurried. A man paused to inspect the soil, ran fingers along the top layer, adjusted plants gently, moved to the next row. The same inspection repeated along every row. The sky remained calm. Clouds drifted slowly. Shadows moved across the fields, stretching and shortening gently. Nothing changed suddenly. A woman gathered vegetables, placed each one in a basket. Then another, repeating her careful motions. Lunch came quietly. Bread, cheese, water, simple and calm. Children resting beside the fence. Adults moving between rows and barns. The midday sun continued its steady arc. Shadows lengthened slowly. Temperature adjusted gradually. No sudden heat. No sudden shade. Birds repeated their soft calls. Wings flapped, then glided, then landed again, then moved. A continuous loop. The sound of tools hitting soil echoed softly. Shovel, hoe, hands pressing earth. Step by step, movement repeating endlessly. The farm existed in continuous rhythm. Work, pause, observe, repeat. Step by step, animal by animal, plant by plant. Time slowed. Each hour felt like the last, and the one before it. Hour 5 continued, repeating itself in quiet harmony. The land, the animals, the people, all moving in steady, peaceful loops. No rush, no noise. Nothing demanded attention. Everything existed softly, continuously, perfectly ordinary. And in that ordinariness, peace prevailed. The sun began to lower slowly, casting long, gentle shadows across the fields. Nothing changed abruptly. Nothing demanded notice. Farmers slowed their movements naturally. Tools rested more frequently. Hands moved less often. Step by step, motion softening. Animals responded to the fading light. Cows stopped grazing and stood quietly, heads lowered, eyes half closed, chewing gently. Step by step, breathing slow, chickens returned toward their coops, walking carefully along familiar paths, plucking softly, then still, repeating each small movement. Horses in barns shifted weight calmly, breathing measured, ears twitching slowly, occasionally turning their heads, then resting again. The wind softened. Grass and leaves bent lightly, then settled, repeating the gentle rhythm endlessly. Farmers observed the land quietly. They did not hurry to finish. Instead, they moved through the fields deliberately, checking plants, adjusting posts, ensuring animals were settled. Every movement repeated from earlier days. Step by step, row by row, a wagon returned slowly along the dirt path. Wheels pressed into the earth softly. The driver adjusted the reins slightly. The horses continued at their measured pace. Step by step, nothing rushed. The sky changed gradually. Colors softened. Sunlight became warmer, more golden. Shadows stretched longer, then softened again, repeating in a slow, endless loop. A woman gathered the final vegetables, placed them carefully in baskets, then paused, adjusted the placement, then moved on. Each motion repeated softly. Birds flew to the roost, landing silently in trees. Wings folded, resting, repeating across the landscape. Inside barns, the animals settled. Hay shifted slightly beneath them. Sounds of soft breathing filled the space. Step by step, moment by moment. Soft, endless rhythm. The evening continued. No sudden noise. No abrupt movements. Everything flowed in repetition. Work slowed, but the rhythm persisted. Step by step, movement by movement. As the sun touched the horizon, light softened to orange and gold. Shadows stretched across the fields, then lengthened slowly, repeating, returning, softening again. Hour 5 continued in its calm loop. The land, the animals, the people, and the fading light all moved in quiet harmony. Step by step, motion repeating endlessly, perfectly ordinary. Night had settled fully over the fields. The sun had disappeared beyond the horizon. The sky darkened slowly. Shadows vanished. The land exhaled quietly. Animals had found their resting places. Cows stood still in their stalls, heads lowered, eyes closed gently, breathing slow, even, repeated softly in rhythm with the night. Horses in the barn shifted slightly, then rested again, hooves pressed softly against straw. Step by step, movement almost imperceptible. Chickens nestled in coops, feathers fluffed, heads tucked, Soft clucking faded into silence, then returned softly, repeating endlessly. The wind moved gently over the fields. Grass bent, then straightened. Leaves shifted, then stilled. A slow, continuous cycle. Farmers had returned to their homes. Steps softened on wooden floors. Tools were set aside carefully. Each movement is deliberate. No hurry, no urgency. Step by step. Inside homes, candles flickered quietly. Light warmed rooms without brightening them. Shadows danced gently, then returned to stillness. Children lay in beds, breathing evenly. Dreams arrived slowly, step by step, repeating the calm rhythm of the day. Water in a nearby trough reflected moonlight. Ripples moved softly, then stilled, repeating gently. Fences held boundaries quietly. Animals rested within them. Step by step, night after night, the farm repeated itself endlessly. The sky deepened in color. Stars appeared slowly, one by one, then more, repeating in predictable rhythm. The smell of earth and hay lingered, unchanging, comforting. Every breath felt steady, every movement repeated. The barn doors creaked softly as a breeze passed through. Then silence returned. The sound repeated occasionally, softly, step by step. The farm existed entirely in repetition. Animals breathing, plants still, wind moving, water reflecting, night stretching. Time did not matter. Nothing demanded attention. Everything repeated naturally, perfectly ordinary, completely calm. Hour 5 reached its completion. A full day, from morning, midday, sunset, to deep night, existed in slow, repetitive, ultra-calm rhythm. All actions, all movements, all breaths repeated softly, step by step, moment by moment, endlessly, peacefully. And in that repetition, the fields, the farms, the animals, and the people rested fully. Night embraced them completely. The 50K hour was complete, completely calm. Night would arrive naturally, but the farm existed in these loops. Evening sounds and motions repeated softly, and it was enough. Early morning water flow, 1800s. Morning arrived quietly near the river. No sudden light, no sharp sound, only a slow change in the sky. Mist hovered above the water, thin, white, moving gently, repeating its motion again and again. The river flowed at its own pace, not fast, not slow, just steady, always steady. Water touched the riverbank softly, then pulled back, then returned again, repeating the same calm movement. Tall trees lined the river's edge. Their reflections rested on the water, still, unbroken, until a ripple passed, then still again. In the distance, a small wooden bridge stood quietly. Planks aged by time. No footsteps yet. No voices. Only waiting. Birds rested along branches near the water. Some opened their eyes. Some stayed still, breathing quietly, repeating the same calm rhythm. Reeds near the shore bent slightly. The breeze touched them gently. They moved, then stopped, then moved again. The lake beyond the river remained calm, its surface smooth, almost mirror-like, reflecting the pale morning sky. No machines, no engines, no distant hum, only water, only air, only silence. A fisherman's boat rested at the shore, still tied, still waiting, not moving. The water lapped softly against its side. Tap, pause, tap, pause, repeating endlessly. Time felt different here. It stretched. It slowed. It repeated itself quietly. Animals nearby approached the water carefully. A deer paused at the edge, lowered its head, drank slowly, then paused again. Each movement happened without urgency, without reason to hurry. Everything followed the rhythm of the water. The sun rose slightly higher. Light touched the river's surface. Sparkles appeared briefly, then faded, then appeared again. The river continued. The lake remained calm. The breeze returned softly. Nothing demanded attention. Nothing needed changing. Everything simply existed. And the quiet nature of the 1800s morning continued, slowly, steadily, repeating itself along the riverbank. Rivers, lakes, and quiet nature. Midday rivers and lakes, 1800s. Midday settled gently over the river. The sun stood higher. Not harsh, not bright, just present. Water continued to move. Always forward, always slow, never changing its pace. The river widened near the bend. Its surface shimmered softly. Light moved across it, then disappeared, then returned again. Along the lake shore, stones rested quietly, some smooth, some worn, all unchanged. Fishermen now stood silently near the edge. Lines lowered carefully, no sudden movements, only waiting. The lake accepted everything calmly. Reflections softened, ripples formed, then faded. Trees leaned toward the water. Leaves rustled gently, then stilled, then rustled again. Turtles rested on sun-warmed logs, motionless, breathing slow, unbothered by time. Dragonflies hovered above the surface, moving forward, stopping, moving again. The midday hours passed without notice. Nothing rushed. Nothing changed quickly. Everything repeated softly. Deep, repetitive water loop, sleep-focused. The water flowed, and flowed, and flowed again. Ripples formed in familiar patterns, one after another, always the same. The river touched the shore, pulled back, returned again. Every sound softened. Water moving, leaves shifting, air breathing. The lake remained calm, then rippled slightly, then calm again. Your mind followed the water. Forward, slowly, gently. Nothing unexpected happened. Nothing needed attention. Water sounds repeated. Movement repeated. Stillness repeated. The river never stopped. And it never hurried. Time felt long, then longer, then endless. The mind drifted like water. Quiet, loose, unattached. Each ripple was familiar, safe, predictable. The water loop continued, and continued, and continued. Night water reflection loop, moon and stars. Night arrived softly by the lake. The sky darkened slowly. No sudden change. The moon appeared above the water, a quiet circle of light. Its reflection stretched across the lake. Long, gentle, unbroken. Stars appeared one by one, each finding its place. Each reflected faintly in the water. The lake mirrored the sky. Sky and water blended together. Ripples moved through moonlight. Light broke, then returned. Frogs called softly near the shore. Not loudly, not often, just enough. Crickets joined slowly. One sound, then another, repeating. The river continued moving unseen, but always present, always flowing. Cold air touched the water's surface. Mist formed again, the same as morning. Night folded around the river and lake. Everything rested. Everything slowed. Moonlight remained. Ripples moved. Stars reflected. The water repeated its calm story. Again, and again, and again. Hour 6 flowed gently toward completion. Rivers moving. Lakes resting. Nature repeating endless. The last candle burned low. Its flame is smaller now. Quieter. Light rested softly on the walls one final time. Shadows barely moved. The room felt heavy and calm. Nothing else needed to happen. Breathing slowed naturally. In, out, in, out. Outside, the small town slept fully. Roads were empty. Shops were closed. Fields rested under darkness. Rivers continued flowing quietly. Forests stood silent. Homes remained still and safe. The candle leaned gently, flickered once. Then the flame disappeared. Darkness filled the room slowly. Not sudden, not sharp, only gentle night. The house rested completely now. Walls held warmth. Floors held memory. Time no longer matters. Nothing asked for attention. Everything had reached rest. The night remained. Deep, quiet, endless. And the story of the 1800s small town slowed, softened, and finally drifted into silence. Repeating her careful motions. Lunch came quietly. Bread, cheese, water, simple and calm. Children resting beside the fence. Adults moving between rows and barns. The midday sun continued its steady arc. Shadows lengthened slowly. Temperature adjusted gradually. No sudden heat. No sudden shade. Birds repeated their soft calls. Wings flapped, then glided, then landed again, then moved. A continuous loop. The sound of tools hitting soil echoed softly. Shovel, hoe, hands pressing earth. Step by step, movement repeating endlessly. The farm existed in continuous rhythm. Work, pause, observe, repeat, step by step, animal by animal, plant by plant. Time slowed. Each hour felt like the last, and the one before it. Hour 5 continued, repeating itself in quiet harmony. The land, the animals, the people, all moving in steady, peaceful loops. No rush, no noise. Nothing demanded attention. Everything existed softly, continuously, perfectly ordinary. And in that ordinariness, peace prevailed. The sun began to lower slowly, casting long, gentle shadows across the fields. Nothing changed abruptly. Nothing demanded notice. Farmers slowed their movements naturally. Tools rested more frequently. Hands moved less often. Step by step, motion softening. Animals responded to the fading light. Cows stopped grazing and stood quietly, heads lowered, eyes half closed, chewing gently. Step by step, breathing slow. Chickens returned toward their coops, walking carefully along familiar paths, plucking softly, then still, repeating each small movement. Horses in barns shifted weight calmly, breathing measured, ears twitching slowly, occasionally turning their heads, then resting again. The wind softened. Grass and leaves bent lightly, then settled, repeating the gentle rhythm endlessly. Farmers observed the land quietly. They did not hurry to finish. Instead, they moved through the fields deliberately, checking plants, adjusting posts, ensuring animals were settled. Every movement repeated from earlier days. Step by step, row by row, a wagon returned slowly along the dirt path. Wheels pressed into the earth softly. The driver adjusted the reins slightly. The horses continued at their measured pace. Step by step, nothing rushed. The sky changed gradually. Colors softened. Sunlight became warmer, more golden. Shadows stretched longer, then softened again, repeating in a slow, endless loop. A woman gathered the final vegetables, placed them carefully in baskets, then paused, adjusted the placement, then moved on. Each motion repeated softly. Birds flew to the roost, landing silently in trees, wings folded, resting, repeating across the landscape. Inside barns, the animals settled. Hay shifted slightly beneath them. Sounds of soft breathing filled the space. Step by step, moment by moment, soft, endless rhythm. The evening continued. No sudden noise, no abrupt movements. Everything flowed in repetition. Work slowed, but the rhythm persisted. Step by step, movement by movement. As the sun touched the horizon, light softened to orange and gold. Shadows stretched across the fields, then lengthened slowly, repeating, returning, softening again. Hour 5 continued in its calm loop. The land, the animals, the people, and the fading light all moved in quiet harmony. Step by step, motion repeating endlessly, perfectly ordinary. Night had settled fully over the fields. The sun had disappeared beyond the horizon. The sky darkened slowly. Shadows vanished. The land exhaled quietly. Animals had found their resting places. Cows stood still in their stalls, heads lowered, eyes closed gently, breathing slow, even, repeated softly in rhythm with the night. Horses in the barn shifted slightly, then rested again, hooves pressed softly against straw. Step by step, movement almost imperceptible. Chickens nestled in coops, feathers fluffed, heads tucked. Soft clucking faded into silence, then returned softly, repeating endlessly. The wind moved gently over the fields. Grass bent, then straightened. Leaves shifted, then stilled. A slow, continuous cycle. Farmers had returned to their homes. Steps softened on wooden floors. Tools were set aside carefully. Each movement is deliberate. No hurry, no urgency. Step by step. Inside homes, candles flickered quietly. Light warmed rooms without brightening them. Shadows danced gently, then returned to stillness. Children lay in beds, breathing evenly. Dreams arrived slowly, step by step, repeating the calm rhythm of the day. Water in a nearby trough reflected moonlight. Ripples moved softly, then stilled, repeating gently. Fences held boundaries quietly. Animals rested within them. Step by step, night after night, the farm repeated itself endlessly. The sky deepened in color. Stars appeared slowly, one by one, then more, repeating in predictable rhythm. The smell of earth and hay lingered, unchanging, comforting. Every breath felt steady, every movement repeated. The barn doors creaked softly as a breeze passed through. Then silence returned. The sound repeated occasionally, softly, step by step. The farm existed entirely in repetition. Animals breathing, plants still, wind moving, water reflecting, night stretching. Time did not matter. Nothing demanded attention. Everything repeated naturally, perfectly ordinary, completely calm. Hour 5 reached its completion. A full day, from morning, midday, sunset, to deep night, existed in slow, repetitive, ultra-calm rhythm. All actions, all movements, all breaths repeated softly, step by step, moment by moment, endlessly, peacefully. And in that repetition, the fields, the farms, the animals, and the people rested fully. Night embraced them completely. The 50K hour was complete, completely calm. Night would arrive naturally, but the farm existed in these loops. Evening sounds and motions repeated softly, and it was enough. The road stretched quietly into the distance. So long it seemed to disappear. It was not smooth. It was not rough. It was simply worn by time. Years of travel rested within the dirt. Hooves had walked here. Wheels had turned here. Feet had passed quietly. Now the road waited again. A wagon returned to the path. Slow, heavy, steady. Wooden wheels turned patiently. Creak, pause, creak. The sound repeated, never changing. The horse walked without thought. One step, then another. The same distance each time. Dust lifted softly, then settled, then lifted again. Fields lay on either side, silent, unmoving. Fence posts passed slowly. One, then another. The road felt endless, but peaceful. Travel without urgency. Travel in the 1800s followed no schedule. Only daylight. Only weather. The traveler did not rush. There was nowhere urgent to be. Boots pressed gently into the soil. Lifted. Pressed again. Left. Right. Left. Each step sounded the same. The wagon kept moving. The same pace. The same rhythm. Birds crossed the sky above, then vanished. The sky slowly dimmed. Color faded quietly. Travel continued. Without demand. Without haste. The road meets the forest. Trees appeared gradually. One by one. The open land narrowed. The road softened. Leaves covered the dirt. Sound faded instantly. The forest welcomed silence. Tall trunks surrounded the path. Straight, still, light filtered gently through leaves, breaking into calm patterns. Air cooled slightly. Breathing slowed without effort. The wagon reduced its pace. Not forced, just natural. The forest changed everything. Forest deepens toward night. Evening folded into night. Slowly, unnoticed, shadows filled the spaces between trees. The forest held sound gently. A single owl called, then stopped. Leaves shifted faintly, then rested again. Crickets began softly, steady, repeating. Nothing startled the forest. The road disappeared beneath roots and leaves. Travel faded into stillness. Owl calls and repeating silence. The owl returned. Same call, same rhythm. The sound passed through trees, then dissolved. Silence followed. Long, comforting. Crickets filled the space between. Branches barely moved. The forest stood quietly, patient, unchanging. Time no longer mattered. Ultra deep silence loop. The forest rested fully now. No footsteps, no wheels, only breath, only night air. The owl waited, then called again. Silence returned once more. The same pattern, again and again. Darkness remained thick. Thoughts softened. Sounds blended. Nothing asked attention. The forest existed peacefully. Endless night continuation, loop section. Night stayed the same. Trees still. Air calm. The owl returned. Crickets followed. Silence filled the rest. Over and over. No beginning. No ending. Only forest. Only quiet. Only deep rest. Hour 7 stretched gently forward. Not by change, but by repetition. Rivers, lakes, and quiet nature, 1800s. The night rested gently over the river. Nothing changed quickly. Nothing demanded movement. The water continued to flow. Slowly, steadily, as it always had. The moon remained in the sky. Its reflection stayed on the water. Long, soft. A ripple moved across the surface. Then another. Then the same ripple again. The lake breathed quietly. In, out, in, out. Mist hovered low above the water. Not rising, not falling, just existing. Trees along the shore stood still. Branches unmoving, leaves quiet. The river touched the bank, pulled back, returned. The same gentle motion. Again and again. Crickets repeated their song. Always the same. Never louder, never softer. A frog called once, then waited, then called again. The sound traveled across the water, then faded, then returned. Stars reflected faintly on the lake. Some visible, some lost, all calm. The night air cooled slowly, very slowly, almost unnoticed. The river did not care about time. The lake did not measure hours. Water moved because it always moved. Silence existed because nothing disturbed it. A small wave formed, touched the shore, dissolved. Another wave followed, exactly the same. The reflection of the moon broke, then rejoined, then broke again. Everything repeated itself naturally, without effort, without intention. The shore remained unchanged. Stones rested where they always had. The water flowed past them. One moment, then the next. Night stayed deep, dark, comforting. Nothing new arrived. Nothing old left. The river continued. The lake rested. Breath slowed. Thoughts softened. The same sounds returned. Water, air, insects. The night loop continued, and continued, and continued again. No beginning, no end. Only flowing water. Only reflected light. Only repeating calm. Hour 6 moved toward completion, not by changing, but by repeating. Rivers flowing endlessly. Lakes holding the sky. Night holding everything else. The same moment happened. Candlelight inside quiet homes. Night had fully arrived in the small town. The sky was dark, still, unchanging. Inside the homes of the 1800s, candles were lit slowly. One flame appeared, then another followed. Each candle took its time. No sudden light, no sharp brightness, only soft illumination. Yellow, warm, unhurried. Shadows stretched gently along wooden walls. Long shadows, soft shadows. They moved as the flame moved, then paused. They waited. Furniture stood quietly in the glow. Tables rested where they always rested. Chairs waited without movement. Shelves held familiar objects. Nothing felt new. Nothing felt urgent. Everything had its place. Everything remained where it belonged. Nothing moved. The candle flickered once, paused, then flickered again. The flame leaned gently to one side, then straightened itself. The flame breathed slowly. In, out, in, out. The room remained warm. Not hot, not cold. Comfortable, safe, still. The walls held the warmth. The floor remembered footsteps from earlier. Now the house rested. The candle continued burning. Patient, steady. Time slowed naturally. Nothing needed attention. Nothing requested action. The moment repeated itself quietly.